and gentlemen, may I please have your attention? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are now live with BB3 TV.
Hey guys, happy Sunday. I hope everyone had a great week so far. I'm super excited to be here. As always, you know how we do it on this podcast. If you guys can, tell me where you're watching from, and you guys watching from TikTok, you can also do the same thing. Let me know where you're watching from. Today, guys, we have an awesome show planned for you. We're going to be talking to Tom Conwell. He's a ufologist. Tom, a little background history. He's an electronic technician with the US Navy and Honeywell Inc. for 42 years, a Honeywell Temperature Control, fire alarm and security software specialist, a biomedical engineer. He is fire alarm level 2 certified, a meteorologist, which is the study of measurements, and a I got that wrong, a metrologist, which is a study of measurements, and an HVAC engineer, engineering resource. Tom has wide-ranging expertise with a keen awareness of physics, computers, and internet software, and a broad knowledge of electronics and how it intersects with the paranormal world and UFOs. So this is definitely going to be an interesting show, guys. If you can, have some questions ready to go. Tom is an excellent resource. He has incredible answers. So let's hit him with some good questions tonight, guys. Tom studies databases as a forensic pattern researcher. Over the past 7 years, Tom has written 3 volumes of a book series. They Are Here, Volume 1, 2, and 3. Self-published a collection of blogs, Going Interstellar, Completed, Earthquakes, and UFOs, and collaborated with Anna Marie Manalo on The Night Visitants, his story of extraterrestrial contact. Has studied and researched UFO sighting reports from the U.S. East Coast, the Central U.S., and the Western U.S., and given speeches about each of these subjects. Tom has assembled and by the way, this is an amazing map that Tom has put together of UFO sightings, revealing many anomalies, and is now an integral part of his research studies. Guys, without further ado, I'm going to be introducing you to my friend, Tom Conwell. Tom, how are you, sir?
Good, Dustin. How you been?
Not too bad, my friend.
Good.
We're going to bring Ashley, my sister, in here. Ash, can you hear us?
Yes.
Is the internet good, or are you glitchy still?
Well,
all right, good.
I think I'm good.
So, Tom, I'm doing great. Sorry, actually, there's going to be a delay, so we'll do our best work with it. I'm doing great. I've been incredibly busy, just keeping things going, in life in general. You know how it is. It's been difficult with the, trying to juggle family life and work life and, business life and podcast life, but it's been great. So I'm really excited to have you on. I know it's been quite a while since I've had you. So what's been going on with you, and what's changed since the last time we talked? I think it's been about 2 years since we had you on.
Mm-hmm. I published a book with Anna, which you mentioned. That was a story of all of the weirdo things that have happened to me since I became a ufologist. And when I say weirdo, I mean it's just something that I never had any background for. And there's just stuff was happening. And so the only thing I could do at that point was write it down. And it ended up, as soon as I started telling someone the story, they told me, oh my goodness, we got to write a book about this. So I thought, you really think you have enough? And yeah, we did. And I also collaborated with one of the people that I had interviewed about their abduction experiences. And that's interwoven with my story in and out of what was happening to me. So it turned out pretty interesting.
So we've already got loads of questions coming in. I'll tell you what, I don't generally go to questions this quickly, but since it's coming in, I'm going to go ahead and hit these from TikTok. Ask about W-band. I'm not sure what that is. W-band body networks, and who and why are they used? Do you know what that is?
No.
Yeah, I don't. Quit it. If you want to get a little bit more specific, I don't know what that is, my friend. So I can't ask a question. Why are more reports done in metro areas unlike previously in rural areas?
Oh, because there's more people to look up and see. That's the basic reason. If you look carefully at my UFO sighting map, and you were really familiar with geography, you'd look at the map and say, gee, there's New York and Washington and Boston. And, you'd pick out the cities because that's where the majority of the sightings are. Where it gets interesting is where there is a collection of sightings that is not corresponding to a major city. That's when you got something very interesting. And there's a bunch of those around.
What do you think that, corresponds with more than, do you think it has something to do with like military installations, missile sites, things of that nature? Okay.
This happens to be the topic of the speeches that I'm giving around this area here to the libraries. And I listed in all of my books, I went through each particular state listing reasons why UFOs may be gathered in a particular area. And among those reasons were Native Americans, military and their weaponry, nuclear power, pollution, our pollution, life. There's just life around, so life attracts life. Are they interested in ours or in enhancing their DNA? Are they looking to take over resources, the planet, our water, things like that? And there may be other reasons. And in all the research that I did, I realized that the biggest reason that they may be in any particular place is that they are waiting for the ascension of the human race. That's to a fifth density or 5D.
Okay. Keith Silva from TikTok says, from what I've gathered, light attracts darkness, hence we like to hunt with knives and forks. I have no idea what the hell he means by that.
Yeah. Oh.
I probably should have pre-read that before reading it to you.
Yeah.
So another question is there a report of UFOs having actual like fights with each other? Have you ever heard of like alien races or UFOs actually attacking each other?
No, there's stories of that in the history books, and these particular stories included from the Vedic scripts, but back in ancient India, and then there was some other events where somebody described something like ships in the air shooting at each other, but it may not have been exactly that. So those events have happened in the past, but there aren't very many of them.
So let me ask you this. Okay, well, Kristen says, I've heard they're worried about us starting a nuclear war and are trying to stop us from it. So watching nuclear sites sounds possible. I mean, it does seem.
I've heard that before.
Well, there is a video. There is a video of what appeared to be a UFO firing a laser, like circling a missile in flight, and what appeared to be disarmed. Do you know which video I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Has that type of video been verified? Do you know?
Nobody's going to admit it. So it's not going to be verified by a military person.
Okay. Yeah,
but
of course.
Um, I've heard a whole lot of debunkers around that, and they said that's just a glint of light, and I think somebody also said that maybe it's just a refraction from the plume of smoke coming from the missile. I don't know. But since nobody's going to say what it is or why, then I can't really say too much about it.
Yeah, that's true. And I personally would think that with the video that I saw around that, that doesn't look like anything. That doesn't look like a refraction of light. That
Yeah,
looks like it was kind of like a direct energy, like laser or whatever.
It really did look like that.
Right. I mean, I think something like that would be really difficult to, push off as being a reflection. But so I'm curious about something. Tell me about why UFOs became such a massive part of your life. How did you get involved in this? Like, what's your background, and did something happen to you? Is that what pushed you into ufology?
Okay. Well, from early age, I've always been interested in the cosmos. My aunt was the secretary for the Astronomical League of America. So I got really interested in the cosmos and what we knew about it back then. Now, mind you, this was the mid 50s, and there wasn't a whole lot of information. However, there was a couple of notable books written back then, and I grabbed them and read them. I can't remember who it was. Oh, Colonel Donald Kehoe, I think it was, and I'm not sure about his rank in the military, but he wrote about 4 or 5 books, and they were really fascinating. Then life got in the way. I was working for Honeywell after being discharged from the Navy, and worked there for about 36 years. And then I retired, and I was looking for something to do. Mm-hmm. So I involved myself with a paranormal team because I've always been interested in that, ghosts and whatever else. And so while I was doing that, the person that I was working for and on this particular team, he said, "Well, we want to get into UFOs." And I said, "Well, hey, look, I have a background in science, and I'm the person for you." And he says, "Okay, go ahead, run with it and see what we get." Well, I haven't looked back.
Okay. So this didn't really kind of circle around a personal experience that you had at the outset.
Correct. I didn't have any personal experiences until I started writing about UFOs.
So then after you started writing is when you had an experience.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that experience, if you don't mind.
Well, experiences.
Okay, well, let's talk about them.
Okay. These are from the book The Night Visitants, and I was called out to talk to a gentleman who stated he was from the Coast Guard. Now this was upstate New York, and the only tie-in he would have had with the Coast Guard was the fact that we were on the Hudson River at that point. So I still doubt that story. Okay, but he said that's where he was from, and then he wanted to know if he showed me information from his internal cameras, his internal camera system, if I could verify that it was an ET who was in his house. So we looked through the stuff, and it was interesting. And he kept after me by saying, "What do you think of this, Tom?" And he kept talking just like this. What it sounded like was, it sounded like an FBI guy, if you want to know the truth. And because he kept after me about what I was thinking. And then he turned around and said to me, Tom, would you like to see the pictures of a craft? And I went, oh, sure, let's go. Let's do it,
Mm-hmm.
So we left his house and had to go outside and walk up the back porch into the back door. Well, he had lived here for a period of about 3 or 4 years. And it took him forever to find the key to get into his own back door. I thought that was a little unusual. Mm-hmm. And then I went into the house and I looked around, and what I saw in the house was a house that looked like it had been set up by a staging system, a company, for sales, like they do in real estate.
Yeah.
And it didn't look lived in. So we went through the kitchen, which also did not look lived in. It was spotless. And this guy was a single guy. Okay. So
expected to see more of a bachelor pad looking.
Yeah, I thought that was a little bit weird because it was so clean. Knowing full well and had a lot of life behind me, that men are pigs, and they're going to leave stuff everywhere. Mm-hmm. And so what went through the kitchen into his bedroom, and on his bedroom, on the top of his dresser, was his server. Now, apparently this was bought, the system was bought by his girlfriend to protect his guitars, which we saw when he was downstairs. He had one guitar that looked like it was strung, and the other guitar had no strings on it.
Okay.
So I'm wondering, why would they have this $20,000 system? And that's about what it costs. Because at the time with Honeywell, I was installing systems. So I knew exactly what he had. This whole thing was weird. And then he showed me the ship that looked like he was about 10 feet from the thing. And the ship flew by, and there were close-ups of all the superstructure and everything else. And as this ship left, it looked right up into the clear blue sky. Well, now, another thing that made this crazy is I said to the guy, "Where did you take this picture?" And he said, "Oh, at my bedroom window here, I have a camera that points up." Well, now,
that's weird. Who does that?
I have no idea, because he put this in allegedly to protect his guitars, his sound system. Why would he point the camera up?
Oh, that doesn't make any sense.
Really weird. And what it reminded me of when I watched this thing is that it was taken somewhere in the desert Southwest. And the reason was everything was crystal clear. The sky, everything else. And if you've ever done any time, if you've done any time in upstate New York, it's perpetually cloudy and terrible. Okay. So, well, to make a long story short for that, when I left and bid him adieu, I walked out the back door and looked up at the window where this window was. And there was a canopy of trees over top of the house. There was no clear-cut vision.
So you never would have seen that blue sky,
ever
where that camera was mounted. So that's pretty strange.
Yeah.
So why do you think he's trying to sell you on this story? What would be the purpose of lying to you about it?
Well, at the time, it was actually a great question. At the time, I was putting together a bunch of blogs for my information on what it would be like for us as a civilization to travel to other planets, and not what it would take for the people in these other planets to travel here. So I wanted to list all the problems and cover them and everything else. And I got, I think I hit home with a couple of my stories about artificial intelligence and powering their ships.
How many black vans were parked nearby watching? They were trying to find out what you know.
Yeah, there were no black vans that I could see. As a matter of fact, we're out on it was a suburban street. I didn't see any unusual amount of cars around, and but they absolutely wanted to know what I knew.
So I guess once you start putting yourself out there, let me ask you this. Were you ever contacted by any type of government official or anybody that appeared to be a government or even presented themselves as a government official? Have you ever been intimidated by any of those types of people to stop doing what you're doing?
No. That's a simple answer. No.
Okay.
That never happened because during the time when he was showing me all these things, I asked him if I could have a copy of the film that he took, and he said no. I said, well, he says, but what are you going to do with it, Tom? And I thought, well, if I don't have a copy, there's nothing I can do with it, is there? And he says, no, there isn't. So I said, okay, well, then I guess nothing. And that's how I left it with him, walked away. I told him I wasn't going to do anything with it. And I didn't. For years, I didn't until April of 2023, which was last year, when the book The Night Visitants came out. And this story was the first story in the book.
Okay. So,
and that was about 7 years after the event happened.
All right. So if you guys just joining us over here on TikTok, we are talking to UFOlogist Tom Conwell, listening to his experiences. If you have any questions, put them up here in the chat and we'll go ahead and ask Tom for you on TikTok there a while. Ash, do you have anything that you want to talk to Tom about?
Not at the moment. I think I figured out the internet issue though. So I'm hoping I can actually be a useful part of this conversation.
Yeah. You do seem a lot better. You're actually clear now and you're not chopping up. So that's good. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So my mother had an experience with Men in Black. And, she was very young. They had seen something that took place a couple of doors down from where they lived as children. And after having that experience, and what was strange about it, and I don't like to speak for my mom, but if I'm trying to remember correctly, she said that there was some incredible light, and it was more light than anything that you can produce here, especially in a driveway of some suburban household, that lit up like what would be an entire city block. I mean, she said it was incredible. And she thought that they saw shadowy figures or something to that effect. If I'm, again, I could be remembering this incorrectly, but didn't see a being or anything like that, but like the outline or something like that. And that was pretty much the extent of it. And then after it shot off, because she said the light shot off. And then it was after that men actually approached them in their at their house. Mm-hmm. And they were just kids, and my grandparents, her mother wasn't home. And my uncle, who I think in this instance, she refers to him as her dumbass brother, let these men into the house or something to that effect, where they started to question them about things. I wish my mother could get on here and talk about, talk about this stuff. What directions do the satellites travel? I'm not sure what that has to do with UFOs, but is there actually a direction?
Yeah. Generally, they go southwest to northeast.
Okay. There you go. No, I have not. Sorry.
I do have one question, and this is about a theory that I have heard several places. Because of the fact that people see these unidentified objects going from in the sky, dropping down into the water, or coming up out of the water, there are some people that think that they are already here. They're not necessarily extraterrestrial, like they're already here. We just don't know where they are because they're, at the deepest parts of the ocean, which we know less about that than we do space.
Yeah. That is entirely believable. And that actually makes a whole lot of sense when you stop and think about it. Are they visitors a long time ago who just took residence in the ocean, or are they from a different dimension and just translated over into ours at times when they're out looking or out doing whatever they're doing? But I think the answer is a little bit of both. I think it's pretty certain that there is a dimensional presence here that we're not aware of. And I think also that there are extraterrestrials here that we are also not aware of.
So are the Greys a civilization that are trying to reproduce with our DNA?
Wow, good question. I think they're utilizing their own DNA and mixing it with ours, having the women that they abduct to carry the babies for about 3 to 5 months, somewhere in that regard, and then they take them back and they raise them themselves at that point. But they are half human and half alien, and they're doing that, I believe, because they are.
Does it have to do with trying to be able to survive here?
Possibly. I think that the children that are being born are of a much higher intelligence, and they're going to utilize them to, I hate to say take over the planet, but what they'll do is they will probably be installed in the military, in
places of influence,
politics, and they will probably take over the planet. That's my best guess, and that's based on a bunch of people that I interviewed who had their babies taken from them.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
babies taken from them, like taken right from their homes, like just ripped out of the house.
No. What they found out they were pregnant, and then 3 to 5 months later, they were taken again. And then when they woke up the next morning, they weren't pregnant any longer.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
With no sign of blood, no sign of like miscarriages or anything to that effect. So just
nothing like that.
Here in the morning or here at night, gone in the morning.
Yep.
That's fascinating. I've never heard of that. That's crazy. That's a different type of abduction.
Yep.
What'd you say, Ash?
not only
I was saying
are
I hadn't
they,
heard of that either.
what
I
was that?
couldn't hear. I couldn't hear. Go ahead. Say it one more time, Ash.
I was just saying I hadn't heard of that either.
Okay. Yeah. So it's completely new to me. I mean, you hear of abductions, but generally speaking, somebody who you would think is being abducted are people that are mostly older people. Like if I think about what I've heard and what I've come in contact with research, I don't ever really hear of children being abducted. I hear of children having sights. They see things.
It's the adults who are being abducted.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do you think that's happening a lot even now? Because I feel like we're hearing less and less abduction stories coming across our feeds.
More sightings, less abductions.
Yeah, I think that's happening less and less, if at all anymore. It was for a while, and I think that they are training their children at that point to take over specific jobs in our world.
Okay. So there's a guy on TikTok who said that he has memories of being abducted. You know, most people, from what I've understood, and I want to get to this question that Kristen asked at the bottom. We'll get that in a second. Most of the time I think they wipe your memory. Is that true or false? I mean, they try to make it that you have no recollection of the experience whatsoever.
Yeah, they do a good job of that. Yeah, they wipe your memory out, and what will happen is months or even years later, something will trigger that memory, and you'll remember.
Okay, so it's something that you know, something has to happen to kind of trigger that a little bit.
Usually.
All right. So what Kristen on Facebook asks, what is the correlation to earthquakes that you mentioned in the opening?
Okay. The book started out earthquakes and UFOs, and I wanted to prove that there was a connection between when larger earthquakes were to occur and a bunch of UFO sightings. And since I already had all of those sightings laid out, I figured it'd be pretty easy to put a correlation together.
Okay.
I couldn't.
You couldn't do it though.
I couldn't. There was no correlation, direct correlation between where the bigger earthquakes would occur and collections of UFO sightings.
Okay, so maybe it has something to do with the amount of energy that's produced at the epicenter of an earthquake. I mean, if you think about it, UFOs are their propulsion systems. We can't understand them. We don't know how they gather energy. It might be kinetic. It could be something that, you know, something that they move so fast. You imagine that they could probably gain energy from the static electricity that surrounds their craft moving at those speeds. But maybe it has something to do with the energy from the earthquake that it's producing. Would that make any sense?
Absolutely. That was part of my my hypothesis when I started the book.
Okay.
And I had no information thinking that is the direct correlation. But I found a different correlation after writing the whole book, putting it aside for 6 months to a year. And before I revisited it again, I figured I was going to have to take all that research I did and toss it in the garbage. Well, I didn't. And I kept it around and laid it out on a table, figuring something's here that I'm not seeing, that I haven't recognized yet. And I found out that there are these crafts that are still going back and forth across the country, assessing something on the land beneath them. No,
so it's not like a Chinese weather balloon.
No. What could they be looking at? I also realized that any of the aliens would have to get here would have massive computer systems, far in excess of what we have.
Sure.
So why would they have to keep going over the same areas? There'd be no reason to go over the same areas over and over, because all the information they would have gathered would have been on the first one, maybe two passes. So
Yeah, there would be nothing else to gain from it.
No. So what are they still looking at going back and forth? And I saw these lines tracked across the country, and I saw enough of them that I figured that there had to be a reason why they did that. The only thing I could come up with, the only change that was occurring, had nothing to do with the physicality of what it is they're looking at. It only has to do with the people. The only thing changing are the people.
Okay. Well, that kind of takes me back. You see, the thing is changing are the people. This is what Rosie was saying. I believe there's a reason these kids within the last 10 years are more autistic.
I was going to say, I'm not a medical professional, but as someone who's like in the process of looking at that diagnosis, it's the fact that they weren't aware of so many of the symptoms, especially in people who aren't heavily impacted. So it's not necessarily there's more of a prevalence. It's just we know more
about autism.
Yes.
Okay. And Kristen,
I agree with that.
Kristen's heard, his theory, but they may have already ascended into another dimension. Now, Rosie said, before I get to Rosie's question on TikTok, is it typical to remember directly before and after an abduction, but not the actual events? Because he's saying that he had this experience and he's unsure if it was an abduction.
Before and after, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, you might have to get a little bit more specific, Eli. Yeah. Like, what are you remembering? Are you remembering something that's like directly correlated to, directly connected to the experience? Or are you talking about, I remember I was having dinner and then I don't remember anything until the next day? Kind of break it down a little bit.
Yeah.
I was like 5 at the time, so I don't remember much. And another guy says they have, he's had experience. Trying to go back and get it. He said I have memories of being abducted. I don't know. This might have just been a fever dream, but I was a kid. But I remember just having memories of waking up in a chrome-colored room, but it wasn't hospital-shaped or anything like that. My mother also has memories like this.
Ooh, that's a big key right there, because the abductions are mostly familial.
Oh, okay. So, okay. So they keep, not being weird, they keep it in the family.
Yes.
So they're targeting certain individuals or like maybe certain genetic traits?
Yes. They are looking at the certain genetic traits. However, during all of the interviews that I did, one thing stood out with me is that the people that all claimed that they were abducted have some measure of psychic skills.
Oh, okay. So maybe that has something to do with it. Well, think about these people that can do the remote viewing, and the government uses them to do those types of operations. We just had a show about remote viewing and astral projections and things of that nature. These people that have that ability are able to connect consciously to the other dimensions.
Yeah.
And I would think that maybe the ability to do that in and of itself is probably a genetic trait. Yes. Maybe to a degree, but at the same time, it supposedly, according to the government and the Gateway program, it's something that can be taught and learned. They literally the CIA put out a manual for being able to do this.
Yeah, well, I doubt that would be very successful. However, the people that are already psychic have that innate ability, and they can be trained.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there has to be a certain form of aptitude or the training means nothing.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So Eli said before it was like a throbbing like tone. It was bright light in the window, and then it was louder, and then it was brighter. Then he blanked, and they were gone.
Yeah.
That's what he was explaining. So Kristen says, so hear me out. What if they are underground or underwater, and that's what's causing increased earthquakes?
Well, okay. First of all, I didn't see any evidence that there were increased amounts of earthquakes. Just the general earthquakes. Might there be some link between underground diggings and earthquakes? Yes, there may be a link there, but just by virtue of the fact that they're underwater, I don't believe there's a link there.
No, I would think that anything, if that would be the instance, a submarine would have an effect on the Earth to that degree.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Because
Yeah,
it's,
absolutely.
I mean, it's displacing water. The only thing an alien would be doing is, or an alien craft,
Unless
UFO
they're
would be
interacting
displacing.
somehow.
What's that, Ash?
I was saying, unless they're interacting somehow with like the faults or, you know, the Earth. But yeah, if they were just underwater, it wouldn't cause that.
It wouldn't make any sense. Now let's jump back a little bit. All right, I'm very interested in pre-civilization. You know, when we were thinking at a time where human beings were just simple hunter-gatherers, we have these incredible monolithic, megalithic sites that are simply impossible to recreate with today's technology. How are these things being done? Like Göbekli Tepe, you know.
Oh, you're getting into my territory here.
Well, but see, there are people that like to make jokes, and they're like, well, the aliens help them. Do you think that it's possible that civilization was far more advanced than we? Because, you know, I think human beings as a whole, we have a very short memory, right? We forget very easily. I mean, I forget what I did this morning, but think about it in terms of you get these pyramids that are built so perfect, like the Giza Plateau, that align with the with stars and things of that. We can't do that as precise as they did with what we have today. I mean, what's your opinion on that? Do you think it's possible? And that's not a conspiracy theory. You know, that is something that I think really has to be looked into and taken seriously.
Yeah, it's a possible explanation. It's simple to say, oh, the aliens did it, but a whole lot more difficult to say, well, maybe what happened was there were multiple advanced civilizations that lived on the earth and who were standard humans and just advanced past the point where we are. And then there was an extinction event, and they were all wiped out except for just a couple. And these people had to start from scratch. I think that particular event has happened multiple times in the Earth's history.
So we supposedly have technology, though, that, I mean, we have a Space Force now, but you figure we would have technology to, let's just say, blast an asteroid or something to that effect before it even entered our atmosphere. You know, if they were so advanced and so far surpassed what we have even today, why couldn't they have done the same thing?
Well, they probably could have, but it may not have been an asteroid. The Hopi Indians talked about 3 different ways that there had been a extinction level event. Fire, and I believe when they're talking about fire, they were also talking about massive volcanoes that just covered, blanketed the earth in black soot, and there was a major die-off of everybody.
See, this is why I mentioned the Younger Dryas, because that event is what is believed to have caused like the rapid melting at the end of the Ice Age that a lot of people believe is what leads to the flood myths in like the Epic of Gilgamesh, in the Bible, in almost every civilization across the world. And some people believe that it was fragments of some type of asteroids or whatever that hit the Earth in multiple places and caused massive flooding, tectonic, movements. It caused earthquakes. Like basically, there was a huge calamity all over the entire planet. So these people, if they were here, and this is a pet theory of mine, that's why I like the idea that maybe they're underneath the ocean. If they were trying to escape all of that and they had that technology, they could have gone down there,
It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is possible.
That's a pet theory of mine.
But then why wait for centuries to reveal yourself? And really, they haven't even officially revealed their existence. I mean, there's people that have had experiences and they're like, well, this, and this, but why not just reveal your existence to the world? What's the worst case scenario? They're far more advanced than we are. They could wipe us out if they wanted to. They have nothing to fear from us. So what's the point in staying secretive?
In my opinion, I think perhaps they had already got themselves established down there, and everything up here was probably crazy for quite a while, and by the time they were ready to come back up, maybe conditions weren't completely right, or maybe they saw that people were, creating what was created. Maybe it's a science experiment, and that's why they try to save us from ourselves with nuclear events like meltdowns or bombs or whatever.
Because it'll directly affect them too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's possible. I mean, and Unhinged on TikTok says that we scare them. That isn't even a joke. He thinks we legitimately scare them. I mean, maybe human beings in our current state just don't have the responsibility to wield the power that we have. I think we all act very emotionally. I think, that would be scary in and of itself with a race that has nuclear technology and could literally wipe out life as everyone knows it. So that could make sense in what you're saying with that Unhinged. So the biggest for the big picture, okay, and she brought up God. Or nuclear reactions cause disruptions in space-time that attracts a sort of interdimensional police. It's been proven that the human body can be pushed past its limit and survive. Well, yeah, but I don't know about that. I mean, in a nuclear situation. Of course, if you look at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, a lot of people survived that. There's nuclear. I mean, not anybody that was close to that. I mean, they were incinerated, but the fallout and the exposure to the radiation for long term, it killed them eventually. So, I mean, I want to go now talk a little bit about what you're working on. And since she brought up God and spiritualism, how do you feel that this connects? And you're working on a book right now to spirituality.
Yeah. One of the things that had happened to me since I saw my first 3 UFOs on 3 different events is that someone, and I don't know who that is talking to me at night, telling me things, and that's what's happening. So that whoever this person is trying to get across to me, this is where I should be going and what I should be writing about. And the most recent event was about the infinity of God. Now, I didn't know what they meant by the infinity of God, but the more I started thinking about it, I think what they were trying to tell me is that God is an infinite being. It's just that God is responsible for the multiple universes, the big picture. But where it doesn't fit in with our world is how we have manipulated the subject of God in with the groups of religions that we have. I think that it's become too self-serving. God is, it's been created so that some people can benefit from it. And that's just wrong. And that's what they were trying to tell me, that God is infinite. He's not what you're telling me that you know about. It's not that pastor who makes millions. It's just not that. And they want me to get that across in a story.
So that's interesting because, and I've talked about this, and Ash, you can vouch for me on this several times when I've said, and it was just a line in a stupid movie that probably had nothing to do with scripture at all. Maybe it does. I don't know, because sometimes they do use fact in movies, but it says, the kingdom of God is inside you and all around you. It's not in mansions of wood and stone. It says, lift a stone and you will find me. Split a piece of wood and I am there. That is how I see God. That is exactly the way, even if that came from a movie, not for those that are asking, it's stigmata. And I think that really, really encapsulates how I feel about Christ or God in general. You know what I mean? It's a relationship between me and him. No, I don't need a building. I don't need that institution between myself and him. Do you feel that God being the creator of all things, okay, does that mean he's created aliens as well? Does that, or are aliens in themselves actually spiritual types being, like, you know, having a good and having a bad, maintaining that balance? Do you feel that there's that existence?
I believe that some groups of aliens are extremely spiritual, and they are trying to influence us to see things their way.
Okay, so Kristen tends to lean towards believing that we are under a firmament, and the Bible mentions a firmament, which means that doesn't necessarily mean that there's a flat Earth, but she kind of buys into the flat Earth theory to a certain degree. If you're looking at it this way, Kristen, my thought would be is, hey D Money, thanks for jumping in, brother. These beings are interdimensional, okay, and have nothing to do with being able to traverse through a firmament, whether there is one or not. Which I personally don't believe there is one. I believe there's an atmosphere, and I believe we can come in and out of the atmosphere, as we've done many times, going to different parts of our solar system. But I digress. These are supposed to be interdimensional type creatures, and these people, they use a different type of energy to be able to traverse through from one dimension to another, and these dimensions all pretty much exist here on Earth. Would you agree with that, Tom?
Yeah, pretty much. They all exist here on Earth, but we have not, as a race of people, been able to access the fourth and fifth dimension very often.
Why do you suppose that is? Do you think it's just the amount of energy that we put out, or that it requires we don't have?
Well, I think a part of it is the actual planet that we live on. It has a certain vibration to it, and the vibration is a low frequency, which will allow us to live on this planet, but we adapt to that frequency. And what has happened over the eons to these other civilizations is that through years and years and years, they have learned to adapt to the 4, 5, 6, and above dimension. and everything is totally different from them to us. We can't see them when they come into our atmosphere because they're operating at a different place.
Mhm.
Kind of like the whole theory that if we look at something that's 2D, like it wouldn't be able to see us. Something that's one-dimensional wouldn't be able to see something above their own dimensions.
Yeah.
It's an interesting theory.
Now, it's not just physically seeing, because that doesn't make sense. If you can physically see yourself, then you can see higher dimensions. It's not about seeing; it's about vibration. Everything is about vibration.
Well, the Earth is the natural frequency is called the Schumann resonance, which is 7.83 hertz. Is that what you're referring to?
That's one of the many things I'm referring to.
Okay, so there's more than that.
Yeah.
Now, people, and I follow this intently. Okay, if you look at like Buddhist monks, a lot of them spend a lot of time meditating and doing their ohms and chants and things of that nature. So then you started getting into energy chakras and things of that nature. Does all of this kind of correlate to what you're talking about?
I think that they're what they're doing is they're meditating, and through the meditation, I think they are able to pop around into other dimensions.
Okay. So, Rosie, like the higher the vibration or frequency, the more you will see, hear, and feel.
That's pretty much true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you feel that there is actually a way for human beings to raise their own frequency? Is there a way for us to do that? Or when we pop in, we resonate at a specific frequency and that's just where we are? Or is there a way to tune that? I mean, or change that, or even combine it with something else?
I wish I knew the direct answer, because I'd have switched it on long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Write a book about that and you'll be a millionaire overnight. I'll tell you what.
Yeah. I think part of this whole scenario is learning how to grow. And we're learning how to grow through meditation, through acceptance, and through a lot of other things.
I think it all has to do with, like you said, that growth, but becoming more enlightened. And that kind of goes into, like, I've been able to do a little bit more in that realm of things over the past few years, because I've kind of reached the same conclusion that you have, Tom, when it comes to God and the universe. I think that there is a creator. I think that there is some kind of energy, but I think that we all have it wrong. I think that it's something that's much too complex for us to understand at this time.
Yeah.
And ever since I've started operating with that and communing with it in my own way, I have definitely noticed a lot of things. I sense a lot more things. I'm able to do spirit walks. Now, I know that's not necessarily interdimensional, but I'm able to commune with things outside of myself. So I think that it all comes from opening your mind, learning to look beyond the things that hold us back here, and getting into your head that it's not one way.
Okay.
It isn't. Yeah, I think we all have it within us to commune with the higher dimensions, but we have to figure out what that is within each of us.
Nancy from on TikTok said it's not energy, it's God. Well, God, I think, is energy. I think God's created it all. I mean, that's the source, right? So
yeah, the one source. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have a title. It doesn't have a sect. It's not Catholic. It's not Christian. It's not Buddhist. It's not Muslim. It's just God.
It's just God. That's what they try to get through to me in a dream early one morning. And when I woke up, it was like all so clear. It's becoming a little bit murky for me since then, but it has become it became very clear initially, and I'm just trying to work through it.
So was this dream that you had, was it more like a lucid dream where you were pretty much awake and just really present in the dream? You knew you were asleep. Can you kind of explain what that experience was like for you? Or was it just a dream? You woke up and it was just there?
Okay, well, I have had a lot of these dreams. This is not just one, all right?
Okay.
I've had a lot of these dreams, and they have gone from meeting people made of light all the way to waking up in the morning, or just, being in the twilight of waking up and having voices in my head. This isn't something I want to go around admitting, but yeah, I mean, that's exactly what happened. There were voices in my head, and I said before, people told me stuff, and from I guess in the past 4 or 5 years, I've had the impression that when I go to sleep at night, I'm not taken, abducted. They come and they grab my consciousness and take it off and make me sit in a lecture hall, and they talk to me among thousands of other people.
It's not just
the impression I'm getting. Yeah, that's the impression that they give me.
Okay, so this is just an impression, but it's not something that you can see. It's like this is like conscientious and like, wow, I know that I am in a room, but the impression is that you are, and the impression is that you're not alone.
Yeah.
One among many. They're trying to get the message.
What was that?
I was saying you're one among many. They're trying to get out the message.
Yeah. Yep.
But so now, look, people have changed. Like the whole UFO ufology, the whole stigma surrounding the subject, starting in, what was it, 1947 when Roswell happened until now, has completely changed. I mean, you're seeing it now with Freedom of Information Acts, these FOIA releases of documents, a lot of redactions, and they still hide stuff. But the government is actually now starting to put this stuff out. You're seeing videos of UFOs that were captured from like F-18 pilots. Other pilots have recorded, a ton of UFO experiences. Do you think that people are just becoming more awake now? Do you think they're becoming, it's like, do you feel that people are more prepared to handle the news that, hey, we aren't alone? And maybe that's why the government is starting to put this type of stuff out? Or do you think it's just, what's your thought process about that?
Okay. I think yes, that we are as a population far more aware that we were. I don't believe that if they were to tell us anything, anybody would be frightened to death. I really think that there's a very I'm not even sure what I want to say here. There are a lot of things that are held back, and they're held back for what someone thinks is the reason that no one can handle it. But this is an individual opinion. And what is happening with the population is that we are getting more and more and more aware. That's putting pressure on the people that are withholding things, and they're allowing more stuff to come out. I hope that made sense. But
we are ready, but I've
always been a mass awakening.
What's that, Ash?
I feel like there's been a massive shift over the last couple of years. There's been like a mass awakening. More people are more receptive to alternatives now. And I feel like we are ready for things of that nature now.
Yeah, see, Shane says, we are ready, but I've always said we are, but I wonder how the religious communities will handle it. What does that do for religion as a whole when all of a sudden, it's not just this omnipotent creator, this, one, well, it is one, but religion.
They wouldn't really be made in his image, though, would they?
Right. Exactly. So what does that do for religions, and what does that do? Does that break everything down if aliens just show up here?
No, I don't believe it would. There's a few religions who already tried to get ahead of it, such as the if I'm not mistaken, the Muslim religion has indicated that there are people elsewhere living that we will eventually interface with, and the Catholics have tried to get ahead of it too. As a matter of fact, the Catholics hired an astronomer, and this astronomer has slowly released information about there being life elsewhere. So yeah, it's all coming out, and the religions are aware that it's going to be coming out, so they're all drawing their own conclusions.
So Monica says, then think about this. Why would God create something so big and so vast like the universe and just create us? Like,
I thought that too.
That's exactly the way I think. I mean, I think we'd be foolish to believe that we are the only living species in the entire expanse of the universe when there's multiples, millions of planets out there that actually have water, and there's planets we don't even know exist.
It's statistically impossible that there isn't life elsewhere. Now, the level of sophistication of that life can be up for debate, but it is statistically impossible that there is not some type of life elsewhere in the universe.
Yep.
Well, the question then what comes into play then is there technology, if they're not interdimensional creatures, if they see, this is where I have a hard time. Okay. You have creatures that are interdimensional. If that's the case, they don't need a craft to get them here necessarily, do they? Couldn't they just use their physical bodies and transverse the dimensional planes? Or do they need to actually have a craft? And if that's not the case, then you have to have a craft that can go from millions of light years away and travel to our universe and get here. Have they been traveling for millions of years? Or are they getting here in an instant? So
okay, let me address that particular point. If the aliens are utilizing the technology that we have, then we can say that it would take millions of years for them to get here. But they're well beyond that point, and they've learned how to make shortcuts between dimensions, between who knows what, to go across the entire universe, perhaps with just by summoning up some energy. They figured it all out.
So, I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Our minds are just not capable of understanding.
No, not yet. Not yet.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I can accept that. So they don't need craft. They have them, but they don't need them. Like we have cars, but can use other modes of travel, include astral projection. I guess. So now the question is, okay.
Locally, they can do that once they get to a planet. I'm not convinced that they can astral travel to a different solar system.
Okay, so they can't travel if they're in one area. If they're in the Earth, and there's multiple dimensions that exist on this planet, they can travel between those dimensions because they're operating at a higher level of energy than we are.
Mm-hmm.
But they can't just say, "I'm going to go back to Mars," you know what I mean, or wherever the hell whatever planet they're from, and
if it's Mars, I believe they have the capability mentally to transfer their bodies there, at least their conscious bodies. but I don't believe they have what's needed to transfer themselves to a different different galaxy.
Okay. Well, no, and that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Now, so you believe then human beings, we have a spirit, a soul, and that continues on after the physical death of the body?
Yes, absolutely. And as a matter of fact, we've all had multiple bodies, and we're learning as we go. We may end up choosing a particular lifestyle, and that is because we really want to learn more about that particular lifestyle. So we volunteer to go back to the planet and to relive our life as a different person.
I want to be a super rich guy when I come back next time because this sucks.
Yeah. I got that.
Spiritual growth, my bro. You choose what you don't already know, what you need to learn more of. That is one of my beliefs as well.
So reincarnation is a fascinating topic for me. I mean, and I think there's evidence that proves that it exists. I mean, when you take a kid who is 3 or 4 years old and he's talking about his experience of flying an Avenger aircraft and fighting the Japanese, and where he was shot down and what happened and where he can find the plane, and it's verifiable. Mm-hmm. How do you dispute that?
Yeah, that makes it really hard, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Yeah. The other thing that is occurring is that people are reincarnating as beings on a different planet. You don't always come back as a member of the Earth.
Okay, so that's an interesting take on it.
And I believe many people who have reincarnated are now put onto this planet in order to help the rest of the people transfer to the fifth dimension and higher.
Now, what does the fifth dimension have a name? Would we refer to that as heaven?
Fifth density.
Fifth density. Okay. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, I don't know what it is. I've never been there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we have a gentleman on here. He's one of our board members on Hizzy's Wall of Fame back here. Only reincarnation in the Bible is when we go to heaven and we get our new bodies. That's according to Scripture. So that's within Christianity. That's within the construct of a religion.
Yeah. Who the heck knows what the answer is?
Exactly.
Nobody knows until we get there.
See, when you apply this to like the paranormal, those energies are measurable. You can use an EMF meter, and you can actually measure the energy surrounding a spirit or an entity or whatever. I think that is evidence enough. If you use a digital voice recorder, you can pick up the sound you can pick up disembodied voices that are completely in a different frequency that you can hear it. There's plenty of evidence that exists that there's life after the physical body.
I think that everything in time will be explained. We just don't have the technology yet to be able to explain it all.
Right. So true. No one really knows exactly what lies beyond this life. If they truly knew, they'd already be there, but well, you take these people. My thing is this, consciousness is a tricky thing. Okay. We have the ability to disrupt human consciousness. We can do things like using anesthesia. Anesthesia disrupts human consciousness. It puts you out. So why is it when you go out under anesthesia, you come back in it could be 2 hours, but what seems like 5 minutes, and you have absolutely zero recollection of what happened? Maybe it's not the same thing, but it shuts down your consciousness. And there are people that say, well, if that happens just using medication, what happens when the lights go out? Like lights go out, and
I think the difference is we're still trapped in our bodies. We haven't been released of our bodies. It's just our brain has been quieted by the medication. But there are some people who talk about being able to be above their bodies while they're having surgery, and they watch it happen. They can talk about the conversations that were happening during the surgery. I think that is, when the lights go out, I think because we are being released, that it's different.
That makes sense. That's a good explanation. I think that actually makes a lot of sense. Never really thought about it that way, because I was just under anesthesia again. I think for the third time in my life, and I went out and I woke up, and a certain amount of time had went by, and I had absolutely zero recollection of anything that happened. And maybe that's just because they shut you down, but you're still there. Your body's medicated. So that makes a lot of sense. So your soul will leave when it's ready, and I believe your body will take time to shut down. That really depends. Does anyone else dream under anesthesia? Because I do. I woke up and told my nurse everything. No recollection not me. I have zero recollection of anything when I'm under anesthesia.
Yeah, that happened to me too. I had major surgery, and I was out for multiple hours, and I remember nothing.
Yeah, it's so strange. So there have been those.
I woke up having the same conversation I was having when I went to sleep.
Oh. There have been those that say when we die, that's it. There's nothing. The mere thought of that drives me literally insane.
Yeah.
Well, that's a scary concept. I mean, to disappear into nothingness, then what would this life even be for? Why are we here? What is the point of our existence? To just, be born, consume, and die with nothing?
Yeah,
to lead a fulfilled life.
Yeah, it's just not logical, is it?
It doesn't. No, that wouldn't make any sense. And I don't think that this incredible creator would put us here to just. I mean, maybe this is a big petri dish. Maybe it is, but I choose not to believe it.
Well, it could very well be a petri dish of everyone who is floating around trying to learn.
Okay. Well, but this time you came out of it a lot quicker. Normally it takes you 3 to 44 hours to come out of anesthesia. It took me a few minutes. Yeah, sometimes I have a very difficult time waking up from anesthesia. Also, to throw back to when you talked about sleep paralysis before, I actually had that happen to me this past week. Oh my goodness, that's crazy.
Wow.
Okay.
We should talk to him after.
You want to talk to Tom after the show, you mean? Okay.
Yeah.
Something you don't want to talk, something you don't want to talk about on the air. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up here today. We went about 20 minutes over our time. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate that. Hope you guys over here on TikTok enjoyed it. Please, by all means, if you haven't done it already, please give me a subscribe on YouTube. It's Dustin Hizzy over on YouTube. Just give me a subscribe, or you can follow me on Facebook. Join in, and I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Come back again for TikTok. We'll be here at Monday night at 8:30 p.m. Hope to see you guys there, and we're going to say goodnight to TikTok. Take care. Yes, I want to end the live. And Tom, thank you so much for coming on and spending some time with us.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
Tell everybody where they can find your books and how to get a hold of you if they want.
The books that I've written are all on sale with Amazon, and it's best to get in touch with me through Facebook. You see my name there, and that's pretty much how it appears on Facebook. It's a Facebook / Tom Conwell 3. And that's my address. And I'm always writing stuff about what people are telling me at night, and kind of freaky.
Well,
I'm actually interested in that.
Yeah, I want to start getting into some of your content because you should do some video. You should definitely be putting out some videos, Tom. Just go live yourself, because I think people would really be interested.
That book, The Night Visitants, that's a story of my extraterrestrial contact And there are, I told you the story about the Coast Guard thing. That was only one of 15 stories.
Okay, wow. And they're all in that book.
All in the book. And there's a few that didn't make the book. They happened as the book was being finished. But I woke up one morning with the whole side of my face black, I don't know, like a broke a blood vessel or something. And I figured, oh man, I'm going to be explaining this for months, you know. But by noontime, it made everything disappear.
Wow.
Noontime, all the black was gone. And my face was back to normal.
That's crazy. There he is. You found me on Facebook. How do I get a hold of a signed copy? Can I buy one directly from you?
From me, sure. Oh yeah.
Just do you have a Venmo or something to that effect?
Venmo
or PayPal?
Definitely take PayPal too. Definitely take PayPal.
You want one to? All right. What is your? Let me write this down. Is that just your email address?
It is. It's my email address. Yep.
So guys, listen up. If you want a signed copy, Tom, can you hold your book up again? If you want a signed copy of Tom's book, The Night Visitants, a ufologist and experiencer and the undefinable, shoot him a PayPal. And what's the price of the book for a signed copy?
I believe, let's see. I have different prices of these. This, I believe, is still $20.
Okay, $20, and you'll sign it for anybody who PayPals you from our show directly?
Yep.
All right, what's your PayPal email address?
Okay. Listen carefully because it's a little screwy. Okay. TCONWEL2 at nycap.rr.com. That's tconwell2 at nycap.com. Nycap.rr.com. And you notice my last name has 2 L's at the end. My email address only has 1 L.
So it's tconwell, 1 L, 2
at
nycap.
nycap.rr.com.
rr.com. Okay. We're going to do this right now, and we're going to add this. There you go, guys. There is, if you look at the bottom, scrolling across the bottom of the screen, if you want a signed copy of that book, that is PayPal, $20 to tconwell2 at nycap.rr.com. Scrolling across the bottom of the screen there. And I will also link his Amazon in the YouTube in the description when I get over there to fix it. So we're going to call it a night. Tom, thank you so much for being here, guys. We'll see you next Sunday at 8:30 p.m. I'm not 100% sure. I had a guy that I've been talking to. I wanted to schedule him. He's a near-death experiencer. He put out a book, and he's been trying to work it into his schedule. I'm trying to get him in next week. If that doesn't work, we may have a few first responders coming on for us to talk about what the first responders and their experiences and things of that nature, and give an opportunity for us to say thank you for what they do for their service. So join us next week, guys, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will see you all then. Take care, guys. Have a great night.